Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to this week's edition of our podcast, Tackling Debt with Emelike Ukpabi. My name is Emelike Ukpabi and I'm your host, okay? So this week we're going to be talking about the debt journey of the African Caribbean immigrant. But before we dive in, I just want to highlight something very important, which is our $1 billion debt challenge. This initiative, while open to all, is focused on supporting the Black community in Canada, and our goal is ambitious yet achievable, and it's to reduce the community's total debt by $1 billion this year, 2026. The reality is that debt continues to weigh heavily on our community. It impacts our mental health, our relationships, our marriage, our careers. But imagine the impact if we all collectively lighten that burden, freeing more families to save, invest, and contribute even more to Canada's growth. Now, that number may seem large, but let's just break it down. If 100,000 families each reduce their debts by $10,000, we'll reach our target. And with over 5.4 million members in the Black community across Canada, we might even surpass that. Okay? So the topics we discuss here are designed to guide, to empower you to help achieve this goal. We're not giving professional advice. I can connect you to professionals who can help you with your finances, especially around debt. Okay. We are still developing a community-wide tracker. We want to track how we are doing with this debt challenge. And, in the meantime, you can start by tracking your personal debt daily, weekly, monthly. Every small step counts. Okay, so let's dive into today's episode, and it's basically the debt journey of the Canadian African Caribbean immigrant. I am an African immigrant. I know what I went through when I came into this country, and sometimes I wish then what I know now I knew then, or there was some resource where I could tune in to, find out how to navigate totally new society. Okay. Now, most African Caribbean immigrants land with big dreams. You got your PR, you got your citizenship, and so on and so forth. But the first reality you face is housing. And with housing comes first and last month's rent, deposits. Sometimes you come in, if you don't know anyone in town, you go stay in a hotel or an Airbnb. Those things are very expensive. Okay. Another issue that we face is the exchange rate. It's a shock, and what looked affordable back home, when you come here, suddenly it feels so expensive in pounds or in dollars if you're in the UK, right? Now, how does this lead to debt? Because housing is urgent. People need a roof over their heads. People swipe credit cards or borrow from friends, take payday loans or high interest loans to secure a roof. Furniture, mattresses, transit passes, winter clothes, those necessities often land on that credit card, creating a starting balance before you even receive your first paycheck. Now, think about your own journey. How much of your first debt was just the cost of starting life? Rents, deposits, furniture, basic appliances. Okay, so once you have found a place to sleep, the next big challenge is income. Okay? Now, underemployment and survival jobs. Many African Caribbean professionals arrive here highly educated, but their credentials are not recognized immediately. So they have to end up with survival jobs, work in the warehouse, rideshare, care work, security, often are lower paid than expected. It's like a bridge, until you get something that pays a good wage. Now, how does this connect to debt? When income is lower than expected, then the budget you planned from, back home when you came here doesn't work anymore because you don't earn enough income to be able to cover that budget. So you might use your credit cards to bridge the gap. Groceries on the credit card, transport on the credit card, phone bills on the credit card, and you're telling yourself it's temporary until you get a better job. Another issue is job instability. So sometimes, with those survival jobs, you may get a shift job, temporary job, and then 1 week they can call you and they say, oh, there's no work for you. Don't come. So what does that mean? Loss of income. And if there's loss of income, how do you bridge the gap on your budget? Credit cards, borrow. So that's another challenge, okay? Now, combine unstable income with no clear plan for your money. That you don't have a budget. And in the last episode also, I think we talked about a budget, right? So no budget, no commensurate income, that's a recipe for spiraling debt. Now, the new country where Canada, which became my new country, back home before I came, we operated on cash. So if you didn't have it, you didn't spend it. If you don't have money to buy a car, you don't buy a car. If you don't have money to build a house, you don't build a house. In the West, the system is built on credit. Credit scores, monthly bills, buy now, pay later, which encourages silent overspending. Now, money comes in, bills go out, and whatever left just disappears when there's no written plan. Okay, I'm coming back to budget. You can't see how much is going to housing, transport, remittances, food, and how much is leaking into impulse spending. So that's where people get into trouble. A cup of coffee here, McDonald's here, impulse buying here, it all adds up. If you're spending, say, $10 a day on fast food, that could total up to about $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a year. That's money that could have gone into a $1 billion debt challenge. Okay, right. Now, other traps and other issues that the new immigrant, the poor immigrant faces is that new immigrants quickly get offered credit cards. Okay, so you go in, you open a bank account, and then what happens? You get a letter and email. Oh, you've been offered a credit card. Oh, and then some people open 2, 3 4 bank accounts, and they match. So you get a credit card from bank A, credit card from bank B, bank C, and all that. That's debt. Journey into debt. So the common traps are, they come in with an introductory 0% or low interest, and after a few months, without knowing what's going on, it jumps up, right? And then there's a minimum payment trap, because if you find yourself in a situation where you're not earning good income, then you're not paying off the card in full. You're paying the minimum payment, and it could take you, sometimes you won't even be able to pay it off, because in your statement you get this warning that it could take, if you're paying a minimum balance, it could take you 50 years or whatever, but it could just go on forever. Okay. Some of these cards comes with rewards, so people swipe like, oh, why are you using your credit card? Oh, I want to get rewards, air miles, and all of that. You got to understand what you're getting into, right? The problem I have with those the rewards thing is that where the rich people who use credit cards to pile on air miles and rewards, where do you think they get paid from? The credit card company doesn't give them those rewards. The money comes from poor people who maintain a balance. So as long as you maintain a balance and you're paying the minimum balance on your credit card, the profit this credit card company or banks make from credit cards is used to reward rich people who pay their credit cards in full. You keep that in mind. Very interesting, right? Now, think of the first time you got a card. Did anyone sit you down to explain the interest rate, the due dates, and what happens if you just pay the minimum? Okay. Other debt traps that immigrants, African Caribbean immigrants face is high interest loans, payday lenders. When the banks say no, many immigrants turn to loan sharks, payday lenders, car title loans, loan apps, promising fast cash. Gotta watch those. Very dangerous. The interest rates can be extremely high, turning a small emergency into a long-term but it's difficult to come out of that kind of cycle, right? Now, car financing in many cities, transportation, you need a car to move around, so people accept very expensive car leases or loans with high monthly payments. Add insurance, add fuel, gas. Suddenly, transport becomes a major source of debt. Some people put gas on credit cards. So you're spending $4,000 a month, a year on gas, and it's on your credit card, and you're paying a minimum balance. Right? You're making the bank rich. Another issue Black immigrants face is remittances. We send money back home, money for rent, money for daddy, money for mommy, money for school fees, money for business, and all of that, right? If you are not making enough income and you're bridging the gap with your credit cards, then you see people go to swipe their credit cards to withdraw money to send back home, driving you deeper into debt. Okay. So another area is people going to businesses, they don't research well, right? So any business that requires you start to spend money or comes with lots of initial expenses is a problem. Now, because you have access to easy credit card with some high balance or high credit, people tend to pull money from there to start their business, and if the business fails, they still owe that money. Okay. Now, what can we do to kind of mitigate some of these problems? If you see yourself in this story, you're not a failure. Like I said, my podcast is not about shaming people. It's about curiosity, asking questions, asking the right questions. So you're navigating a new system that wasn't built with your story in mind. Keep that in mind, right? Start with awareness. Write down your debts. Everything has to be written down. Have a plan. Be organized. Minimum payments, interest rates. Create a simple budget and assign, give every dollar an assignment in that your budget. Okay. Prioritize high interest debts like credit cards, payday loans, or whatever high interest loans that you have. Seek community-based financial education that helps. Counseling, that understands the Black immigrant experience. Now, on the comment section, you can tell me about your story, how you came into this country, how you face challenges with what we just discussed, right? And we could feature your story in a future episode, right? Now, if this episode spoke to you, please share it with one friend or a family member. There are people who are out there who need this information.